What's up, everyone? Today we are talking about making consistent gains and avoiding injury, also known as how to recover effectively. We've had a couple of questions on the YouTube stream, actually, about how do I manage to continue to do those workouts at the level that I do them at when other people are finding that they go really hard one day and then the next day they can barely do half the workout. So we're going to be talking to you about very well-researched strategies for rest and recovery and seeing consistent gains without injuring yourself. All that and more coming up.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
What's up, everyone? In case we haven't met, my name is Rad Burmeister. That there is my brother Yanni Burmeister, and we are the co-founders of Unity Gym and the co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, where we turn driven people into superhumans. And the reason we get such astonishing results with our members is that our program has a perfect balance between strength and flexibility. It's very unique because it's not just that we show you how to stretch and we show you how to do strength training. We put it all into one workout, so you get it done in a really reasonable amount of time. If you want to know how we do it, grab one of our blueprints, the strength blueprint, flexibility blueprint, or nutrition blueprint. There's a link in the description for all of them in this video. And today we're answering some really good questions about rest and recovery, because I think, it's kind of like, a lot of you won't know who Gary Vee is, but I guess it's kind of like that Daily V, right, that Gary Vee did. A lot of people were calling him out, saying that he doesn't practice what he preached, like nobody could live that way. So he did this Daily V thing to show everybody that is actually how he lives his life. He did it for a year and it shut everyone up. And I think maybe these shows have, not like anybody was criticizing us, but I think people are starting to see that we do put our money where our mouth is. And, I'm doing these workouts at a really high intensity every day, and I'm doing them every day. There's no hiding for me from the camera. So we're starting to get some people to ask, how the hell does Rad do that, day in, day out, and keep up to that pace and not get injured?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. And
truth be told, our exercise intervention for all of our members is 5 day a week.
Yep.
And, people are generally, the general consensus that I've observed is that when people come to join Unity Gym, there's a lot of people are put off by that. A lot of people are sort of surprised that we say, no, we all train 5 days a week. Every day, if you're at work sitting in your chair, then we do something daily to offset that. Yeah. And most people are sort of used to having a personal trainer 2 or maybe 3 days a week. And then the other days they're told that they have to rest. And you can't exercise every single day, and you can't, continue at that pace every single day. The problem is that people don't understand how to manage load.
Yeah, that's right. And like the first thing that I'll say is that I've been training for a very, very long time. So this is one of the first mistakes that people make is they compare themselves and what they can do next to somebody who's been doing it for a lot longer than they have. And it takes time to be able to train at my level. It does. It takes time. So let's put that aside. You do have to allow your body the time to adapt to it, and you cannot expect if you're new to this type of training and you're new to training 5 days a week that you're going to be able to keep up with somebody like me. That's off the cards. You've got to accept that. You've got to just accept that your workouts are going to be at a lower intensity than mine are, or you're going to keep up with me, and then after a day or two you're going to need to take a day off, which is not what we recommend. We don't recommend training like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So now let's talk rest and recovery. How do I do it personally?
Hang on, rewind quickly. Why don't we recommend doing it?
Because there's too much risk of injury. If you train that hard, if you train so hard that after 2 days of training you need to take a day or two off, which is what so many popular group training formats do. We get a lot of people that have been to other group training facilities, and they talk about how they'd do 2 days and they'd just be absolutely smashed and wiped out, and there's no way they could go on the third day. They talk about all the injuries that they've got, that they sustained there, and that's why. That's not a way to train for longevity. That might be a way to train when you're in your 20s and you bounce back and you don't realize that these injuries that you're developing are going to still be with you in your 40s and 50s yet, and you don't care because you just want to compete with everybody else. That's what we did when we were that age.
Yep.
But I'm about to turn 42, you're 40. We have a very, very different goal for our training now, and that is that we want to be able to do what we're doing now for at least another 20 or 30 years, you know, and at least at a decent level. So
sorry to interrupt you, because I do want to dive deeper into this, because I think it's really important, because it's not a common belief that, you know, training consistently and frequently is superior to training intensely, you know, and it's not many people do it. You know, most people, myself included, when I used to be a personal trainer at one of the big chain gyms here in Australia, I used to say, you know, train real hard one day, rest the next day, train real hard one day, rest the next day, or train real hard 2 days in a row, rest the third day and go. That's a common.
Yeah.
But then when we got to a higher level and we started to hang out with, you know, even people like Sebastian Oreb and Cameron Oreb, Australian strength coach, but a lot of people that were training where we are now, and professional athletes, you know, league players and stuff like that, they all train, or they all do a lot of physical activity every single day. And not every single day, they have like 1 or 2 rest days a week, but at least 5 out of 7 days they're doing some form of exercise, you know, most of them 6 out of 7 days. But they manage load much better, you know. They're not always going as hard as they possibly can, especially not professional athletes. They only go as hard as they possibly can once a week when they play.
Well, everybody that we know that trained at that level, that's now in their late 30s, early or 40s and even 50s, no one trains like that anymore. And
a lot of them don't train anymore, period.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But if we talk about 3 people that we know, 2 of them we know really, really well, or 4 people that we know, 3 of them that we know really well, that have gone through this whole phase that we're talking about. So Cameron and Sebastian Oreb, really good friends of ours. Aaron McKenzie, a great friend of ours. And also Craig Wing, who was a member here. All people that...
Daniel Vadnal?
Yeah, Daniel Vadnal, yeah. All people that used to train at an extremely high intensity in every single workout, who after, you know, a string of injuries and just feeling like it wasn't the right way to do it, now reduce the intensity from day to day, week to week, and have a period where they'll peak only for a very short period of time, and then they'll go back to training at about 70, 80% intensity, and it's all about consistency. And that approach produces far better results as you get older. It definitely does.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who it was who was interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast. It was George St. Pierre's coach.
I know the guy, but I can't remember.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, the example that he uses, and he's a strength and conditioning coach for some of the top MMA, UFC fighters in the world, and among many other notable athletes. And he talks about this example of, you know, the person that trains at 100% for 2 days in a row and then needs to take a break for a day or two and then trains at 100% again. The amount of volume that they get done in a week versus or he talks about, I think he uses that example of the pull-ups, where he says, if you could do 10 pull-ups and you couldn't do an 11th pull-up if someone held a gun to your head, and you did 10 pull-ups in your first set, and then you did in the second set, there's no way you'd be able to do more than 6 or 7
Firas Zahabi.
Pull-ups.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
You couldn't do 6 or 7 pull-ups in your second set, and in the same example, you couldn't do more than 3 or 4 pull-ups in the third set. In that example, you've now done, if you did 10, 7, 4, you've done 21 pull-ups in a workout that had 3 sets. But the same person that does 8 or 9 pull-ups in each set, so they don't go to failure, they could do 8 or 9 pull-ups. In that example, you'd be able to do 8 or 9 pull-ups for 3 sets for sure, which means you've actually done 24 to 27 pull-ups in one workout as opposed to 21. Do that twice a week and add that up over a year. The amount of volume that you do differently is exponentially greater from the person that trains sub-maximally, and that volume is going to win every time.
And that is the key take-home from today's from today's show, I think, and this is why I wanted to dive deeper into it. Volume, no strength coach is ever going to argue against the fact that volume, total workout volume, total volume of stimulus on a muscle or a group of muscles.
Total phase,
Time under tension.
total periodization volume,
Yep.
like the amount of volume you do in a 6-week phase or a 4-week phase.
Is absolutely the key essential ingredient to growth and development in the body.
Yeah.
And it is the secret sauce to working out. You're always trying to manipulate the variables to get enough volume to elicit the response you want, the adaptation result.
And the intensity is manipulated and changes in response to the way that the volume changes your body. Like as the volume changes your body and you start to go, oh, wow, I can increase the intensity of this exercise now. And the intensity refers to the difficulty of a movement when you're talking about calisthenics or bodyweight training, or it refers to the amount of weight that you're lifting when you are doing a weightlifting movement.
Yeah.
So that's what everybody tries to manipulate, or it will determine in a cardiovascular session your percentage of max heart rate that you're training at. So how high your heart rate is for the time that you're training, that would be considered intensity as well. So so that's why we do. That's why we value consistency over intensity, consistency and frequency. So that's why we try and encourage people to at least train 5 days a week, and some people to even train 6 days a week if they want to.
Yep.
And the only way you can do that is to train the way that we've just spoken about.
Yep.
You know? So that's the first thing. But now I guess we can move on to the more specific question: how does Rad train at this intensity, day in, day out, week in, week out? It's a very, very well-developed relationship between my mind and my body, where I understand what my body can do. And there were some days in that mesocycle that we just passed where I stopped doing burpees and started just doing squat jumps, because I could feel that my shoulder, which is the injury that I did last year, I could feel that it was coming up a little bit. And the old me, it wouldn't have stopped me in the workout, but the old me would have finished the workout and I would have got inflammation and probably not been able to do any upper body work for 3, 4, 5 days afterwards.
Yeah.
But I know that within myself now, so I know when it's time to say, okay, it's time to back off now, and that takes a lot of practice. That takes time. But the better approach is to take the safer approach. There's some people that go a little bit too safe and they never push themselves hard enough, but I would say more people push themselves too hard and injure themselves.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
We're exposed to those circles of people, but there are a lot of people out there that don't push themselves hard enough. And I'm a firm believer, and this might sound a little bit sadistic, but I'm a firm believer that life is about experimenting and pushing the boundaries.
For sure.
And we would certainly not be where we are right now if it wasn't for our obsessive nature of pushing the boundaries and testing ourselves to the limits. And yes, of course, I don't wish upon anyone the types of injuries that we've sustained along the way, but I don't know.
It depends on the goals you want. If you have big goals, then injuries are going to be a part of the journey. It's just the way it is. I don't know anybody that's been able to completely avoid injury 100%, but you can mitigate the risk. And so how do I do it? How do I train at the level that I train at? Well, the first thing is that becomes a priority in my life. So I don't drink alcohol at the moment at all, and the food that I eat is very closely monitored. So I'm not somebody that only eats grass-fed organic chicken feed that was grown on the Himalayan mountains in spring when the sun was coming only from this angle. It's not like that, but I do always think about the macronutrient value of my food, meaning what's the protein, carbohydrate, and fat content. I think about eating whole foods. I think about not having sugars, and then I allow myself a cheat meal here and there, like a burger or a pizza or something, or a bit of chocolate, but it's very calculated. So it's not just, I don't just give in to so that's the first thing. The second thing is the sleep. Sleep is prioritized. I don't, I make sure that I get enough sleep every night. That's really, really important. And then the next thing is, which is what we want to talk about now, is rest and recovery and deload weights.
Can I just quickly say one thing though? I want to add. There's a caveat to Rad's what Rad just said in regards to how he eats and how he fuels his body. He is very satisfied with his body composition. And when we're not satisfied with our body composition, we certainly don't have cheat meals. Honestly,
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's true.
if we decide, okay, we've let it slide a bit, we've had a period away from training, we've been on vacation or whatever else, and we decide that we need to lean up and improve our body composition, there is no room for cheat meals. There is no room for beer, wine, and taking time off. And that's how our brain works. And this is one of the biggest problems with society and the way people approach their health, and especially their weight management, is that they have this notion, there's a notion that you exercise to make room for the little things in life that you enjoy, which most of the time have stacked up to making your body composition the way it is and making you either overweight or unhappy and dissatisfied with your current state of health. And so they come to the gym and they train, and we see it all the time, most commonly with our 28-day intensive clients who are new to our system, new to our gym. They come in and they work out real hard. They smash their first 5-day a week, we call it a perfect week, out of the ballpark. And then we see comments trickling in on the Unity Gym Tribe Facebook group going, oh, I feel like I've really earned this beer, or I feel like I've really earned this, debaucherous meal or whatever else, cheat meal. And these are the same people that came a week or two earlier and said they need to lose 20 kilos, and they signed on to this commitment to themselves to get themselves into shape. Now, here's the thing. Your nutrition and the interventions that you do today are not about making room for tomorrow if you're trying to change. If you're trying to change something, then you're making up for mistakes in the past. Yeah. And therefore there is no room. Exactly right. There is no room for the cheat meal, the hamburger, this and that. And that's our mentality. If we go at change, if we're trying to change something, then we go at it 100%. Yeah. And I think that's important to point out, because maintenance is much easier than change. Mm-hmm. Change is where you have to alter the way your body's operating. You have to manipulate or change the variables of your metabolism to push yourself into caloric deficit, which is never easy. It's never comfortable. And if you haven't cultivated a good, strong relationship with discomfort, then you're going to find it extra hard to go into a calorie deficit because you feel hungry. And most people associate hunger to discomfort, and they don't associate it to autophagy and cell healing and all the beautiful things that are occurring when you're hungry and when you don't have food passing through your digestive system. And so I just want to really point that out. You say, I allow for a cheat meal, I allow for that. But if someone's listening who's 10 or 20 or 30 pounds overweight and they are really, really wanting to lose that weight, then you got to take that with a grain of salt, because that's not an intervention for you. Yep. Your intervention is that you've got to go all in, I think. Yep. On your goals.
I agree 100%. And unfortunately, the way that food is presented to us in the Western world is working completely against us. I remember when I became a personal trainer, and I was 26, and I remember there was a friend of mine, Aaron, who had been a personal trainer for 5 years before me, and he obviously knew a lot more than I did at the time, and I was asking him about nutrition. And the things that I used to say to him, can I eat this? And it was, I thought like saying, I want to eat wholemeal multigrain bread instead of white bread now. And he just laughed at me, and he would explain to me why it's really the same thing. And I was just so baffled, because all I was going, and that happens so many times. There must have been 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 occasions where I'd say, so can I eat this instead? And again, he just smiled and explained to me why you can't eat that if you want to be healthy. And what I realized after a while is that all I was doing, my whole knowledge on what I thought was healthy and unhealthy, was based on advertising. It was based on what the food companies are telling us is healthy and unhealthy.
They want you to believe.
That's right. So anything in the supermarket that's called a savoury snack is unhealthy. Anything. Yeah. It's if it's packaged and it's called a savoury snack, it's unhealthy. And it's really hard for people to wrap their head around this, because people get offended when you tell them this stuff. They're like, "What are you talking about? I can't eat that." And you feel like saying, "Well, I'm not the one that made this up. I'm not the one that decided what makes you, put on weight and get fat and what makes you get into a healthy shape. All I'm doing is, helping you to understand what it is. So that is definitely a big part of of what we do, even though we went down a little bit of a tangent there.
Bit of a rabbit hole, but I think it's an important rabbit hole because I do believe that these are things that people need to address in their life, and this concept of healthy diet and lifestyle and things like that is something that we just seem to miss and overlook.
Well,
constantly.
even if we're not even talking about being a healthy weight, because that's not what the question was. It was how does Rad do this? That's a massive part of how I do it.
Yeah,
my nutrition is on point. And it's a huge part of what I do. I also fast every day. So I fast for about 16 hours so that I reduce inflammation and give my body a chance to heal itself from the inside out. So that's, all the benefits that come from fasting.
Yeah. And there's another thing that's kind of like the elephant in the room if you understand physiology and how the body works, is that your body is very efficient at moving because you have a very, very lean physique. You have a very low, a very healthy body composition. You probably teeter around the 9-10% body fat area constantly. So you're not carrying much additional weight. All of the weight you're carrying is efficient weight. It's muscle mass. Mm-hmm. And that means that you've got the power to weight ratio is extremely efficient. So you move better. The other thing is that you're very, very flexible in comparison to your strength. Your strength and flexibility is completely balanced, meaning that there's no restriction in the joints. So the joints aren't fighting themselves to get into the positions that you're achieving in the workouts. Mm-hmm. So when you compare someone who's an inefficient mover, who's tight and inflexible, whose power to weight ratio is all out because they're carrying 20 or 30 pounds of extra weight. That's fat mass, not muscle mass, so it's inefficient mass. Those body weight workouts are going to be a very different story for that person.
Yeah.
And this is something that we really love about calisthenics, about body weight training. The body adapts to what it needs to be like.
Yeah.
If you need to run to and from work every day or to run to hunt down animals, you become an exceptional distance runner. If you need to run from animals that are chasing you all the time, you become an exceptional sprinter. If you need to move your body in a manner that controls your body weight without injury and efficiently, then your body over time adapts to becoming a better mover, a more efficient mover, And so you need to take that into consideration too. For those of you who are doing these at-home workouts, who are carrying a little bit of unwanted or unnecessary fat mass, it's inefficient mass. It's not muscle, so it's not contributing to your movement. It's hindering the movement. It's making the exercises more difficult for you. It's often not just on the superficial adipose tissue sites, like the stuff you can see. If you're carrying additional weight, then it's going to be in the organs too. So it's going to be making the organs less efficient. It's going to be making the cardiovascular system less efficient. And so you need to take all of that into consideration as well. You doing the workouts in the same way that Rad does the workouts is going to be next to impossible.
Yeah.
So that's not a reason to not try. That's not a reason to give up. That's a reason to work harder. It's a reason to set yourself more audacious goals.
Yeah.
Get your body more efficient.
Well, we get good at whatever we practice. So if you practice sitting around and eating Twinkies or, just eating savory snacks and things like that all the time, then over time, you're going to become fat and out of shape. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, we have a lot of people that say to us, I just don't know how I got to this point, I feel like I'm doing the same thing I was doing a few years ago when I was in great shape, but it just happens slowly and it creeps into your life. And people sort of seem to think that if I make the decision to exercise, that my body should change straight away. But the change to become back to being in shape happens just as slowly. It's not something that you can beat yourself into. It's not something where you can say, you can't say, I'm going to work so much harder in these workouts over the next month and expect to speed the process up. You can't do that. There's an element to, there is still this aspect of if you're not working hard enough, you're not going to get the results. And that's a real thing.
I'll just cut you off there because, truth be told, you can beat your body into submission. They proved that on The Biggest Loser, a very popular show. But not one of those contestants maintained their transformation. Yeah, and this is something that we've proven beyond any reasonable doubt. It's argued that the time, the duration, some say 5 years, some say 7 years. But whatever you do to transform your body, you've got to be able to maintain for 5 to 7 years for that to become your new normal. For your body, for your satiety hormones, the leptin, the ghrelin that tells you to eat or tells you to stop eating, stabilizes in line with your metabolism.
It's not just that. It's whatever you did to get there, you have to do to maintain there. So if you worked your ass off at an insane level and intensity to get somewhere, you're going to need to continue to do that to maintain what you've achieved. Otherwise, you'll bounce back as quickly as you had. So it makes more sense to do it in a way that is slow and consistent and progressively, because that is maintainable. If you do something where you're training 5 days a week at a sub-maximal level and you do what we recommend, where you go for a 3-week cycle and then a deload week, or a 5-week cycle, then a deload week, that's sustainable. And we've proven that over years of doing it, not just ourselves, but with our members. But this idea of just working your absolute arse off for 30 days it's unsustainable, and it's actually easier to do that than it is to do it in a sustainable way, because a lot of people can just go, stuff it, I'm going to stop everything in my life and just go obsessively on this for 30 days with the expectation that in 30 days it'll be over, and it doesn't. It's just not the way the body works.
The health is not a destination; it's a lifestyle, and that's never been more true than when we talk about this sort of thing. So to go back to the topic of today's discussion, to bring this in for a landing, the concept of intervening with your life to embetter yourself, to empower yourself, we believe needs to be done very regularly, very often. That's why we have an intervention here at Unity Gym that's either 5 or 6 days. And we do offer a membership of 3 days a week for those people who are really just not capable of getting here 5 days a week. But 9 times out of 10, those people adapt and start to come 5 days a week because they see the value in it. Mm-hmm. So many of our members who've the very first experience in Unity Gym, they're concerned, they have apprehension about the concept of working out every day, 5 days a week, but within a month or two they're absolutely engrossed in it. They learn to love it,
They're bought in.
And they buy in. Yeah, that's right. And one of the big reasons is because it's about building habits. It's about building rituals. Lifestyle health is not a destination. Health is not a destination. It's a lifestyle. So to build your life around these daily rituals of exercise, that's a daily dose of flexibility, daily dose of mobility, which we do in our warm-up, daily dose of strength, and daily dose of cardiovascular exercise. It's the best way to do it, but it has to be done progressively. And to answer the questions that have come in about how Rad's doing this day in, day out, it's about managing load based on your physical preparedness, your conditioning level right now, and your body type. Like if you're carrying excessive weight, then you need to take that into consideration. If you're only new to exercise, you need to take that into consideration. Yeah. But you need to form or cultivate a mindset of, okay, this is going to be my new norm.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this now, and whatever I take on now and tackle right now and build as a habit now, I expect to be doing it for the next 5 to 7 years.
And the last thing that I really want to drive home, because this is massively important, and this people get wrong all the time, and we see our members at Unity Gym getting this wrong all the time, is effective deloading, planned deload weeks. So my whole cycle, like if anybody that was with me for this whole 3 weeks, you would have seen that every week I increased the volume. I increased the amount of reps that I did in each set, so that last week I really peaked. And by the end of last week, I was cooked. I was really done, knowing that this week I would be deloading. Yep. And if you watched me do today's workout or yesterday's workout, it was really light. Really, really light. And I could have gone so much harder. But I know that this is what my body needs. I can feel that I'm in a state of overtraining and I'm now going to supercompensate. And this is what so many people get wrong. If you get this right, you'll go up to a peak week in either a 3-week or a 4-week or a 6-week cycle, meaning that you peak in week 3 of the 4-week cycle or you peak in week 5 of the 6-week cycle, and then you have a planned deload week. And that's critical to understand. And the next thing to understand as well, which even more people get wrong, is an unplanned deload week. Because an unplanned deload week is when you realize that you're in a state of overreaching, it wasn't planned, and you know that because you're now weaker this week than you were the week before inexplicably. You're still getting as much sleep, you're still getting eating good foods, but all of a sudden you're just weaker and you can't do as many pull-ups or you can't squat as much. Then you need to do an unplanned deload week. And I do that as well. I've done, this year alone, we're only in April, I've already done either 2 or 3 unplanned deload weeks. Where I think I've done 3, where I came in and I went to do it and I was like, man, I am weaker than I was last week and I'm in pain, deload week.
Yeah.
And I come back so much stronger the next week afterwards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, very quickly, before we wrap up, I just want to give a few shout outs. We've got quite a few people on the live stream. Simon Morgan is agreeing with Steve Cavanagh. They're both feeling really great after the workout and meditation this morning. I want to give you two boys a big shout out because that is absolutely what we're talking about with taking extreme ownership of your health and your mindset and everything in between. And good on you guys for getting the workout in and the meditation too. Lee Clements is enjoying the topic. Firas Salman is super stoked that Joe Rogan's guest Firas Zahabi is sharing the same name. Now I've linked that full video. It's a 3-hour. I think it's 3 hours and 18 minutes, that interview. Guys, I've put the link in the comments here if you want to catch that. There are a few shortened versions of that where he talks specifically about the segment that we were talking about here.
If you go to the Joe Rogan Experience YouTube channel and type in that guy's name, I'm sure it'll come up with the short. You don't need to watch the full 3-hour one.
I'll put it in here.
Yeah, and it'll come up with a bunch of. They always edit the videos into the gold nuggets because the one that we were just talking about, it was only a 20-minute clip of his whole thing.
Yeah, I'm putting it in now. The second link down the bottom is the exact part of the discussion that we're talking about here. And it's a super important point, guys. It is super important to understand that load management is key and volume trumps intensity every day of the week. Yeah. Ashley Reed joined. Hello. Lana's on here. Good morning. Matthias, good advice right there. Lee Clements, all about lifestyle choices. That's exactly right. Guys, that's all we have time for this morning. It's 9:01, so it's time for Richard and I to get our daily dose of exercise in. Big shout out to everyone that joined us on the live stream. And keep crushing it. It's good to have so many people on here, I'm assuming because you're all unable to go to work. So we get you here, which is cool. We are trying to get Phil in here. We did it again this morning, but it just doesn't look like the way we're doing it is going to work. It creates that horrible echo. We're still working on it. It may mean that we need to, figure something else out with the hardware, with the equipment we're using. Anyway, keep leveling up, tribe. Everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
See you tomorrow for Wednesday's workout, 7 a.m.
That's right. See you tomorrow.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, consider subscribing to our channel and make sure you click the notification bell so you know when our weekly videos are uploaded. Now, the best thing for you to do if you want to stay connected with us and get free online coaching is to join our private Facebook group. It's called the UMS Movement Mastermind, and we go live daily where we answer our members' questions. It's very interactive because you can post questions while we're live and we interact with you on the show. You can also upload videos or pictures of yourself with any movements, any stretches, strength training movements, calisthenics, weightlifting, anything that you're struggling with, and we'll critique you, give you feedback, let you know how you can get better. It's a really valuable resource. It allows a lot of communication with us and also our senior tribe members. You'll get answers very, very quickly, and it's absolutely free. So jump on Facebook, search for UMS Movement Mastermind, and join now. Until next time, have a great day.